Pretty good.
Yeah,
Sound good.
for sure.
All right.
Let me let
Appreciate
me
you.
let
Go
me
ahead.
put these headphones on first, though.
Okay, no doubt.
I'd rather have them headphones in so I could really
Tap
hear.
in. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
For everybody logging on right now, this is episode 146 of History Lessons with the legendary Shabaam Sahdeeq. Appreciate you joining me this evening, Shabaam.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Hold on, let me get these headphones together.
Oh, no doubt.
Give people a chance to join in anyway.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm in here.
We're good now?
Yup.
All right. Like I said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing me to give you your flowers today. I want to get into some deep history and then work our way up to what you currently have going on because you're a man of many hats, I see, and we're going to get into all of that stuff. But for
Cool.
those who may not know or forgot or may be new to you, can you take us back to where you were born and raised?
Um, I was born in Brooklyn, you know what I mean? Raised between Brooklyn and Jersey, where
Take us back to a day in the life of Shabazz growing up as a teenager in those times.
as a teenager, I mean, running around going to different events, freestyling, studio sessions, all that, fights, all kind of different shit. You know what I mean?
Any
Regular teenage life in New York and New Jersey. Or
any obstacles you had to be encountered with as a teenager growing up between those two areas?
um, not really. Normal stuff, man. You know what I mean? That black teenagers deal with. Police, uh, you know, different fights in different areas. That's it. Or nothing too
Take us
crazy.
take us back to some of your earlier musical influences before you started getting into music. What was Shabam listening to earlier on?
A whole bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Because my stepfather had a, a array of records that me and my stepbrother used to run through. You know what I mean? And my mom's from Venezuela, so she listened to a lot of salsa and bachata and different things like that. So you know, I listened to a whole bunch of different stuff. But as far as like early influences, um, like I said earlier, I used to listen to a lot of Red Alert, Mr. Magic. They the ones who really opened me up to hip hop. So I used to be back and forth on that dial. You know what I mean? You know,
Right.
listening to those two.
What did you see firsthand? And this is before you got into hip hop. What were you seeing around your city firsthand between New York and New Jersey as far as the music scene?
Um, yeah, like I said, a lot of underground events, a lot of shows, release parties. I had friends that worked for different labels, so we used to pop up for a lot of album releases, you know. And there was so many venues as opposed to now. It was Tramps, it was Lions Den, it was R&R, it was, a whole bunch of, clubs to pick from. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wetlands, Southpaw, whole bunch of clubs. Knitting Factory, you know, yeah, crazy.
How did you eventually get involved? A lot of MCs would say graffiti, DJing, breakdancing. For Shabam personally, how did you first get involved with hip hop?
For me, it was graffiti. It was like, art, the drawing, and seeing a lot of these burners on trains. You know what I mean? Early as a kid, late 70s. You know what I mean? Walking with my moms in the train station and seeing these big big burners on trains. Now you don't see none of that. You know what I mean? Not on the
Right.
trains, at least. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they
Can you
changed them now. They silky. They don't hold the paint. Or
uh can you take us back to the transition from graffiti artist to MC? Was that next in your forte as far as becoming MC next?
nah, actually, I went from graffiti to like dancing. Like I was really into dancing and break dancing and all that. You know what I mean? That was my next interest in the four elements. And then I went into rapping. Yeah,
At what
because I
point did
wanted
you
out.
go ahead?
I wanted to be an ill break dancer. You know what I mean? I was pretty
Every
good, but then, I just tape it off.
right. Can you give us a timeline right now when you started to take the MCing serious, putting the pad to the pen, to the pen to the pad?
I think maybe like freshman, sophomore year in high school, I started to really take it serious and starting to go to studio sessions and put work together.
Uh,
Definitely.
can you take us
Before
back to?
that,
Go ahead.
before that, it was just all like freestyling and listening to records in the basement and trying to put it together. But I think like sophomore year, I really started to like record.
Right. Can
Yeah,
you give us a timeline?
I would say 91,
1991. Okay.
91, 92. Started to get serious with it. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, earlier dues that Shabaam had to pay to get his name out there. What were some of the events you were going to? Some of the dues you had to pay before thinking about getting a record deal? What were some of the things you did to get your name out there?
Oh man, all kind of battles, talent shows. You know what I mean? School talent shows, all of that stuff. I remember we did me and my boy had a group, and we won a talent show, and it was judged by DOS Effects. So we started, you know what I mean, working with DOS Effects a little bit. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like around 90, 92, 93.
Yeah, they came out about 91, 92, I believe. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
And
So,
then
go ahead.
and one of my boys knew they father, so you know what I mean, knew one of their fathers, and they was at the talent show that we won that shit. Yeah, yeah.
So, were you doing the group thing first, or were you pursuing interest in this as a solo artist?
Man, I might have been in 100 groups. You know what I mean? Different groups.
Trying to
Things
find your
ain't work
way?
out. Yeah, experimenting,
Right.
trying to put things together, and then I ended up just being a solo artist. Like I got some group work out there, obviously, but you know, mainly a solo artist. Yeah.
Right. Did you ever record a demo? And if so, what labels did you shop to earlier on?
Man, I recorded hundreds of demos. I think some of the early work that people heard on like Stretch Armstrong and Bobito and these different shows were demos. You know what I'm saying? We sent them that tapes. You know what I
Uh,
mean?
right.
Young heads probably don't even know what that tapes are. You know what I mean?
Any interest from the labels from the demos earlier on?
Yeah, a few. You know what I mean? My boy worked for Def Jam, so we used to be running around up there at Def Jam. You know, definitely. Um, Obviously, my people's was working at Rawkus, so my stuff came across their desk early. But my first release was something that we put together. We put out a vinyl on. It was distributed by Freeze. Yeah.
Okay. So how did that do? And at what point do you get to Sinister Voices Records?
That was Sinister Voices Records. Actually, that was the first release on Sinister Voices Records.
You
It can happen to anyone, and then the B side feels so real. You know
right.
what I mean? Yep. And we was distributed by Freeze. It did pretty good. It made me get the next deal with Rawkus, and then I did a group deal with Nervous for Polyrhythmatics,
Right.
and then I was on another project that was like a jazz hip hop project called Us Three. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah, and I was on Blue Note Capital. So
Okay.
all this stuff was happening simultaneously. You know?
Take us back to Rawkus. What's some of your best memories earlier on of that label, which was one of the major underground labels at the time? How did you end up over there after Since the Voices?
Um, I had a manager named Ruby Red, and he was working with the people up there. So he brought me up there, and we vibed out. We did like the first single, which was Arabian Nights. You know what I mean, with Rawkus. Yeah.
Right. The other side was Side to Side in '97. What kind of reaction did you get when that hit the streets?
I mean, for both records, even the one on Freeze, I would have you know the underground stations playing one side, and then you know the major stations playing the other side. It's whatever they pick. Like It Could Happen was being played by Stretch Armstrong, and those shows that was around at that time. And then Red Alert gravitated towards Feel So Real, so he played that side. Same thing with Arabian Nights. Arabian Nights was actually the B side. You know what I mean? Side to Side was the A side.
Right.
Yeah.
Earlier on, was it in the cards for Shabaam Sahdeeq to record a whole solo project, or were you just signing a solo deal at this time?
Um, I was doing single
Sing,
deals.
si- yeah.
I was doing
Okay.
single deals, and then it developed to an album. You know? Yeah.
Okay.
So I was working on that.
I remember Arabian Nights landing on the Sound Bombing compilation. What do you remember most about that, and how did life change for you being on Rawkus and that compilation?
Now it was a good time in hip hop. You know what I mean? Definitely. I remember the Sound Bombing release party. It was dope. You know what I mean? Classic
Right.
mixtapes, definitely.
Right. You also appeared on the Lyricist Lounge project, Outside the Lounge in '98 with Building Block, Mr. Metaphor Kweli, and I believe Quest. How did that track come about?
That was a real freestyle. We just went in the booth and did it just like it came out. Everybody was just freestyling. Yeah. We made it sound like we was outside in front of the club, of course, but we were all in the booth, and it was an actual freestyle. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure during these times the tours were lining up for you. Can you take us back to maybe your favorite tour lineup during this time, '97, '98, and maybe a favorite tour memory?
Um, Lyricist Lounge tour was dope. You know what I mean? We went to a few cities. I remember rocking in LA with them at the House of Blues. You know what I mean? Um, that was a good memory. Everybody was there. Yeah. I remember being on the road with Common and De La Soul, but I'm not sure if that was a Lyricist Lounge tour or that was like a Spear Kickers date. You know what I mean? But that was cool too. You know what I mean? My
Right.
first time meeting Common and De La. Legends.
Absolutely. You dropped Soundclash and Five Star Generals in '98. What do you remember most about a young Eminem at the time?
Really a quiet kid, man, with the hat down like this. Not till later we seen the, high with the blonde hair and all that. So, just a quiet dude. And it was AL and Scan that came back like, yo, this dude is ill, this white kid, and he was killing like the what was it, the scribble jams and all that.
Right out in
So
Cincinnati, I believe.
yeah,
Cincinnati. Yeah.
yep. And they came back like, yo, this dude is ill. So when he came to New York, you know, spinning them set up sessions, and I believe, a few records were done actually, um, 5 Star Generals, as well as the joint he did with Scam and a couple of other joints. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
But he was
You
a cool
ended up,
kid.
yeah. You ended up recording with Pharaoh for World War III. How did that track come about for Sound Bombing 2?
I mean, chopping it up at the label, and they brought the beat to me, and it just happened. I think Lee Stone did that beat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Around this time as well, you dropped Are You Ready and Concrete. How did that single particularly do? And are you talking about releasing an album at this time? What's going on with the career as far as the album materializing?
By that time, yeah, I had an album deal, and I was working on my album in cutting room, and Alchemist was actually the weed guy. He used to come through and deliver weed. You know what I mean? And he played a few beats for me, and those were the beats that I picked. At that time, I think he had did the song for Maul Deep and G Rap, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. You know, we had an apartment downtown. He invited me down there, and he recorded "Are You Ready" and "Concrete," and then later Exhibit laced his verse for "Concrete" in one of them studios. I don't think it was Cutting Room though. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
dope. Can you take us back and talk a little bit about your relationship with DJ Spinner, Mr. Complex, and Apani B, and how you guys formed the group?
Um, I knew all of them, from the underground scene, but Complex had called me one time to do a posse cut, and it was supposed to be a few of us, but it ended up me, Complex, and Apani in the session, and we wound up doing the first song. Um, I'm not sure which song that is, but we ended up doing a few, and then we was like, oh, we gonna do the group, and that's how Polyrhythmatics came about. You know?
How
Started
did you,
out as a posse cut.
how'd you guys end up over at Nervous Records, and did that conflict with you being on Rawkus at all?
Nah, I don't think I had the album deal when we did Polyrhythmatics. I'm not sure, but it didn't conflict at all. You know,
Right.
everything was open. You know what I mean? I was doing a few things, matter of fact. Like I said, I was doing that jazz album with us three over at Blue Note. You know what I mean? That Nick Wiz and Chubb Rock hooked up. And I was doing Nervous, and I was doing the solo thing with Rawkus too.
Working.
Working, working.
What was that creative process like for that debut album, Rhyme Related, with the group?
Just going to spin a basement in Brooklyn and just, chopping it up. That's it. Writing right there on the spot and laying it down. Yeah. The thingamajig lab.
What kind of reception did that end up getting when it dropped in '99?
Oh, it got pretty good reception. I mean, it sold a lot of vinyl, but labels like Nervous, they was dealing with trickery. A lot of trickery, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So a
You,
lot of numbers were smudged, and a lot of stuff went over our heads, you know what I mean? Because we was young in the game.
mm,
But it did pretty good. It opened up a lot of tours, a lot of travel to Europe. It was a good time.
right. You ended up jumping on the remix for Pharoah Monch's Simon Says. How did that come about?
Well, we had the same management, and they asked me to be on the remix. But when I laid my verse, wasn't nobody in the studio. I think later Busta Rhymes came. I seen him laying some of his verse. He was laying his verse in the dark.
Mm.
He had all the lights off in the studio laying his verse. But yeah, I mean, it's a good joint.
Did you